Hey, this is Spare Notes, and this is a new section of the podcast that I'm excited about. It's called Spare Notes, Mental Health and Music. Uh, a little while ago, I asked Thrin to co-host with me. I wanted Thrin to come on because I had you on it as a guest, I don't know if it's a year ago or maybe 6 months ago, and I just like your energy and you're a very active listener and you use a lot of affirming language that shows that you're actively listening. And I was like, oh man, let me hit up Thrin to see if they want to come and co-host once in a while. And you said, yeah, I'd like to do that, but also how about what do you think about talking about mental health and music?
And I'm really, really grateful to be here. And, thank you, Jonah, for having me. And I also am, I very much share your affinity for active listening. And I'm glad that we can be here to actively listen together.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. And just to kind of, just to go off of that a little bit. Yeah, my name's Thrin. It's a pleasure to be here. I play in a band called Winded in Miami. And I'm also a registered clinical social worker intern. Soon hopefully getting my license as an LCSW. So I do mental health counseling with adults and children. When Jonah and I were first talking about this, I really just feel like there is a void of, spaces where musicians can like openly talk specifically about mental health. And I really just wanted to, create with Jonah, like that space for musicians to share, as trust and comfort allows, like their own journeys with mental health, whether that's on tour, in their writing process, just personally. And for this episode, for our very first one, we talked to Sam from the band Mr. Goblin and 2 Inch Astronaut, and also the band Deddy. Sam is also a therapist. He's a social worker, a clinical social worker. And so he really brings that really special, unique perspective while, from being a clinician and also being a musician. And so he was just my first thought for who we should talk to. And yeah, I'm just so glad that we could have that conversation with him.
me too. And I thought it'd be good for us to talk a little bit about our relationship with mental health ourselves and maybe in relation to music. I don't know what I'm gonna say yet, but I know we should talk about it a little bit. Um,
Yeah, I can get it started. Yeah, I can get that part started. So, yeah, and I think, in the spirit of this podcast, like, and just being vulnerable and asking people to be vulnerable, like, I and we want to be vulnerable as well. And, for me, like, I mean, music was really like the first place where I feel like I learned to process my emotions and like
hmm,
learn to articulate my emotions was through like using my voice and like using instruments to express that. And I think that like becoming a therapist and like, you know, becoming also like a space to hold other people's emotions and like reflect them back to them, like, those two things I guess I see it's very similar. And, having definitely like struggled with my mental health in the past and, using music as a coping skill, like I definitely just feel like, very grateful to have this space to talk about it and to, explore the differences and similarities. And I would argue probably more similarities that we share
mhm.
when it comes to mental health and the world of being a musician or just playing music or enjoying music. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And also, I would say a lot of my active years as a musician were probably like 2009 to 2016 and when I was living in LA. And I think we did one tour when it wasn't like a really responsible, it was like a money losing tour, a lot of money. Um, but the band I was in with like a long time, the Moads, we didn't really talk about any of our emotions ever. It was just about
Mm-hmm.
drinking and having fun and we didn't even get stuff done because we would have a meeting and then no one would agree on anything and the meeting would end. Um, and no one was concerned about any mental health. It was just all kind of like shoved down and not talked about that
Hmm.
much like up front at all. Not that like everyone was going through something, but it wasn't something to be talked about. And even when we were on the road, it was just like, oh, I hope that person doesn't do that thing. Like it's just like very basic caveman uh functioning, you know. There wasn't a lot of conversations. It was just go from one place to the other, do the thing, don't do the thing, whatever. So, and I think for my own mental health, I mean, I'm just learning, you know, in the last couple of years of how to express myself a lot more out loud, and thinking of anxiety, like recognizing when I have anxiety. Um, and when I played music, though, there was moments when, you know, I'm a drummer. There are certain songs or sets I would play, and it's just like a complete release of everything, like a just like you open this like release valve, and all the emotions of like anger, happiness, sadness, everything like all at once. So I always appreciated like having music to play and have like that kind of release valve. But it's not like I was talking about the things that were affecting me mentally. It was only release, you know, I used to have was the music. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think that that is like I certainly relate to that, and I imagine that a lot of people would is that it's like, you know, sometimes with like playing music, yeah, like I didn't even like really know what it was I needed to release. It was just like a lot of like pent up energy or like feelings, and but I wouldn't have been able to like put a name to it necessarily. And I think like evolving and growing in that way is like something that's been a really awesome process to me. And like it's something where it's like, you know, we're all a work in progress. Like we're all, you know, evolving and figuring things out as we go. And yeah, and that's why I'm just so happy to have this space to like talk about that as well, because it's like there's no, like you said earlier, there's no right or wrong answers, you know,
Right.
it's just like it's I think learning everybody's journey of how they got there to understanding themselves or understanding other people through that like mental health lens is such important information to share.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm glad to get to do that.
Me too. So thanks for listening to this new segment of Spare Notes, mental health and music. Hope you enjoy the conversation we have with Sam.